Hi everyone. Welcome to a little bit of woo woo. I'm your host, Jill Thomas. Oh my God, I'm so excited. You guys have been watching the show for a while and I appreciate that. And thank you for liking and subscribing. It means so much to me. But you guys know that I have not had a medium on and I'm like shocked by this because people all the time are asking me, where can I get mediumship training? And I'm like, okay, I know a guy. And then I'm thinking, I know a guy and I bet I should get that guy on my show because you guys will love him. He's awesome. Michael Mayo is my guest today. I'm so excited. Michael Mayo is an internationally respected author, medium, astrologer, healer, and spiritual teacher. He is the founder of the Oakbridge Institute, an online school that strives to raise the standard of mediumship and psychic study. Personally, I love that because you and I have both met psychics and mediums who are like the most ungrounded people we've ever met in our lives. And when I guess I've told you guys that I took mediumship classes. It didn't ever come naturally to me because that's not like my main gift. But Michael was one of my teachers, you guys. And so I know that he's amazing. And I wanted you to get from the horse's mouth. Oh God, now I just called him a horse. Oh my God, I'm
Yeah,
so
I'll be
sorry.
a horse. Nay.
I got it just from Michael's mouth, like how to be the best medium. And I know we've talked for a while, but you've been at this for like 20 years, haven't you?
Yeah. I started developing my mediumship at 18 years old. That's actually at the same place that we met. So, yeah.
I love that. We both worked at a metaphysical bookstore in Orange County called Awakenings Bookstore. And I'm telling you, if you guys are psychic and you want to be dropped into the deep end of the pool in a good way, go work in a metaphysical bookstore because it's like one client after another and you like have to wash your hands, maybe get to pee, and then you get a new client and a new set of energy and you have to you learn really quickly how to release one person's stuff so that you can help someone with somebody else's stuff. It's a lot. It's kind of a lot. So first thing I wanted to ask you about was the main question, like when you connect in with somebody who doesn't have a body anymore, what is it they most often want people to know?
Yeah. So, my job is a little bit interesting. So, the first things that they have to kind of accomplish is they have to identify themselves. So, the very first thing is they need to be able to bring forward information that can be validated. Names, dates, specifics, personality, essence, past experiences. They have to actually bring forward something first before we get to what they want to tell. That's what makes the difference between what's an evidential medium and I guess whatever else other people do. I
No, I
think
know.
every mediumship should be evidential. And so, that's for a different conversation, I guess. But the main thing is that first they have to be able to identify themselves with facts and figures about their life that our sitter, the person receiving the information, can understand. And then after that, they can say whatever the heck they want. Now, here's the thing: when it comes to the message, it's oftentimes specific to the person receiving the reading. And the thing with the message is it can be literally about anything. It can be about things left unsaid. It can be about things that you just did yesterday. It can be about things that they are doing now. It could be about bigger things with the family and this sort of thing. So it just literally depends. But a good message should, in my opinion, be relatable, applicable to that person's life. To experiences that they shared. So there isn't any one specific thing, but if I were to sort of think about what all of them end up saying, essentially it's I'm okay. That's like one of
Yeah.
the main things that they want to get across. And I think that if you suddenly went to another country and you were going to talk to your loved ones, one of the first things you're probably going to say is I'm okay. And that's honestly probably the most often asked question from sitters as well. So the people receiving the information often start with that question: Are they okay?
I
Um,
love that. I love that idea. And because you're also, I mean, anybody who does this work, you kind of have to be a connoisseur of human folly. When you're getting a client in front of you and it's like, yeah, I want to talk to Uncle Bob, and he was a bad guy. He's probably didn't go up. He may have gone down. Like, what kinds are the messages different when it's somebody who's done some really wrong stuff? Or talk about that a little bit, or is it just kind of the same no matter what? Like, is he okay? Some people would want him to be experiencing some kind of justice.
yeah, well, I think that in some ways you'll be disappointed
Mhm.
if you have a hope that they're going to receive some sort of eternal punishment or something like that, because lo and behold, they actually don't. There isn't some sort of eternal punishment that is there. There's no great guy in a chair judging you and deciding whether you're good or bad. That's not a thing. But what they do experience is what's called a life review. And a life review is the review of every single moment of your life from your first breath to your last. And you re-experience every single thing that you did. However, you also not only experience what you did, but you also experience it from the perspective of the other people you impacted as well. And so you end up actually experiencing whatever you did. So if you were a person who gave a ton of love to people, made them feel safe and cared for, you are going to experience that in your life review, exactly how they felt it. If you are a person who committed heinous crimes and treated people poorly, you will feel every bit of that pain that you caused to other people. There isn't going to be someone else judging you, but you're going to be experiencing all of that, and you will get to decide yourself how you feel about how you treated other people.
I love that. And it's like, it's not one of those, it's getting hot in here situations here. It's you're having to actually feel the experience. And to me, that's kind of more beautiful, but I know that, church and temple has often a different message. Do
Well,
you?
to that end, their message when they come to you and say, like, this is why when I have someone who's done bad things in their life
Mhm,
or someone
mhm.
who is a saint, there's not that big of a difference in my experience of delivering information, because the ones that have done wrong are just going to want to, make amends and
Mhm.
try to take responsibility. And whether or not the person receiving the information wants to accept that, that's up for them to decide. However, that is what they usually come with. If they've done a lot of terrible things, they know exactly what they did. They experienced what you felt. They have an understanding that is greater than just explaining to them or yelling at them. They literally felt what you felt. And
Wow.
so they know how they treated you. And that's why they often come with remorse, regrets, and seeking, or to apologize.
Well, and I love what you're saying, because in some ways what you're describing tells me that when people, feel like they need to do this radical forgiveness, it really, really doesn't have anything to do with the person that's passed, because they already know what they did.
Yeah, they did. And
Interesting.
they felt it and experienced it. So if you ever felt the feeling of, I want the person who treated me poorly to feel every bit of what they did to me, they did. If they
Wow.
passed. Yeah.
Wow, that kind of puts a different spin on this whole idea of cosmic justice and karma too. Like, the person doesn't actually have to get hit by a car. They can feel what it felt like to run over somebody because they were drinking when they were driving.
Yeah.
Interesting. I love that idea. I mean, yeah, I feel sorry for somebody who's done some bad things and has to go through that. Yes, I always do as a human being, but I do wish, there's always that sense of wanting some justice for that.
Right.
Um, the question I get a lot from clients, because I'm seeing a lot of people right now who are going through this awakening, and they're scared because they're seeing people in their house and they don't know what they are. Or do I talk to them? Do I not talk to them? Do I grab some holy water? Do I go find some incense? Like, what do I do? What would you say to somebody like that who calls you and says, I'm seeing someone in my house. I don't know if they have a body or not.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that I think is really important to understand is that there is nothing to fear from the spirit world, period, full stop. And I will die on that hill because in all of my almost 20 years in February of working with the spirit world, I've never experienced anything negative, scary, or bad. And those who have come to me with those stories, I've always been able to say, okay, I want you to, for 1 second, pause the story that you've created in your mind, and I want us to like eliminate the possibility that this is stemming from some sort of evil spirit or negative
Mhm.
spirit or something along those lines, and let's see what else this could be. And every time we do that, we are able to find a reasonable explanation. The reality is that the spirit world is love, and every time that I've ever worked with the spirit world, I have experienced nothing but more peace, compassion, kindness, love. And I know sometimes people will say, well, if they're bad on earth, why wouldn't they be bad in spirit? Well, what changes people? Dramatic experiences, understanding. Well, if you die, that's pretty freaking dramatic. And then also, if you re experience everything that someone else has experienced, you are now changed as a person. right? So you know exactly who and what you did. You have changed, you've grown, you have greater understanding, and greater understanding eliminates some of that. That whole thing that we have of like danger and evil spirits is all or danger in general, and like striving for resources and competition. That's what brings up all these negative emotions, right? Like that's what creates jealousy and hate and all these sorts of things. When you're no longer in a body and you realize you are eternal, you don't have to fight for anything anymore. You're met with unconditional love in the spirit world. You don't have to battle people anymore. And so all those feelings of hate and jealousy and all that sort of stuff that fuels these evil acts are gone. So what I would tell people is I would tell them to first recognize that there is nothing to fear. You have nothing to fear from the spirit world. Where we get fear is from our society, like the societal beliefs. Our media is probably the number one thing, and
Don't get me started.
yeah, our culture, and those things and religion. Those things, they feed our interpretation of what would otherwise be a neutral stimulus. So I have seen objects slide and move on their own. I've seen spirit lights. I've seen ectoplasm. I've seen tables slide up a wall. Like I've seen amazing spiritual phenomena. Never, not a single time was I ever afraid or concerned, because I understand what's going on. If someone doesn't know what's going on, they're going to become afraid. They're going to be fearful. And then they're going to use all of their lenses that have been put into their awareness from movies and religion and all that sort of thing. And they're going to interpret these things through a scary lens. And so that's a large portion of where that fear actually comes from, but it has nothing to do with the reality of spirit.
I love that idea, and I love what you just said about the movies too, because I think about like The Conjuring, or and I was like, come on, you guys. And people who call for a reading sometimes, or email or whatever they do, I was told by some psychic that I have all these negative attachments, and I'm like, oh, did they tell you you have to come every week to get those negative attachments removed? Yeah, they did, and I'm like, run.
Yeah,
Like it's bullshit.
exactly.
It's bullshit. I'm like, yeah, okay.
I mean, that's my thing, is like I'm a grounded, practical, evidence-based approach to this. It should be repeatable. You should be able to prove something. There should be evidence to support any claim that I make. It can never just be like, I see blue fairy wings around you, and like now I just say that. You know what I mean? Or like your mom is stuck in purgatory for forever, but I have no evidence to support that. Like that's just bullshit. And there's a lot of bullshit out there in this
Really?
realm.
You think?
Oh,
Oh my
it's a
god.
wild, wild west out there.
I love that too. And one of the things I get from what you're saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that when you have, because you have this phone, this telephone to the other side, and you've learned how to use that phone, I get that you get the perspective of not being so afraid of death. I get that you get the perspective of being in general less afraid of things happening in life. Would you say that that's true, or would you add to that?
Yeah, I would say partially it's just being mediumistic in general and seeing that we do continue on. That creates less fear of death itself. um, I still am unsure about how I'm going to feel about the feeling of the transition, and that's probably what makes me feel a little weird. It's not so much that I think I'm going to like be annihilated and no longer exist, but it's more so like, what's that going to feel like? What am I going to experience? And like that makes me a little bit nervous. But other than that, as far as knowing that I have this connection to the spirit world, that is a helpful tool in all of this. But I think that it's more so my experiences with the spirit world that really relieve a lot of my fears. And the what I mean by that is every single experience I ever have with the spirit world for however many years has been positive, has been loving, has been inspiring, has been like awe inducing. When I see phenomena of the spirit world, when they come and they knock on tables or they do different things, communicate these messages of love and acceptance and forgiveness and all of this. Like, I know that there's some people out there that are like, oh, it's demons pretending to be your loved ones. And I'm like, well, if that's demons pretending to be my loved ones, then I'll take the demons, because
Yeah, that's a
they're
great point.
doing a great job of creating a lot of healing and a lot of support and a lot of reducing fear and anxiety and helping people. And so I think that it's because of the experience of working with the spirit world so closely that the fear goes away. Because the more that I do this and the more that I connect, and not even just me as the medium, but even watching other people as the medium, seeing and feeling my own connection to the spirit world, it's really powerful and really, really profound. And so I genuinely encourage people to explore this. But you have to get rid of the fear based belief, because the fear based belief, you will always find a way to validate. So if you think that there are evil, scary things out there to try to get you all the time, you're going to misinterpret what is otherwise a normal stimulus to be something bad. Perfect example. If I'm doing a reading for someone and I start feeling a lot of tightness on my throat, if I am a non-fear based medium, I'm going to go, okay, there's a tightness on my throat. I can feel that this means that this person had a difficulty speaking, or they were intubated when they passed. Does that make sense? Yes, the thing lifts off. If I'm a fear-based belief medium and I forgot to put my magical white light of protection around me, and then suddenly I start feeling like I'm choking, and then I'm like, oh shoot, and then now my heart's racing, my hands are sweating, I'm getting lightheaded. Oh no, I'm under a psychic attack. Like, it just snowballs into this like fear story. It's not useful or helpful in any way.
I watched that show. That was a great show. I used to love that show. No, I'm just kidding. I know exactly what you're talking about. It's such a great way of putting it too. Like, and people do find a way to get afraid of things. One of the things I always liked about you, Michael, and your approach was that you tend to. I've just observed this with you, and tell me if I'm wrong. You tend to almost approach it like a, I wouldn't say a religion, but with a very strong sense of reverence with mediumship. And I always love that, being corrected when I was wrong, because it's important that it be right, and that's one of the things I always loved about your approach to mediumship and mediumship training. Talk to us a little bit about, because I don't think people realize there's different kinds of mediumship. Can you talk about the different kinds of mediumship?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's many forms of mediumship. So the one that you're probably most used to seeing is what we call evidential mediumship. And it lives under an umbrella called mental mediumship. So you might hear it referred to as evidential mediumship or mental mediumship. Um, Another form of mental mediumship is trance. So some people call that channeling. Um, I differentiate trance mediumship and channeling a little bit, only in that the evidential nature of trance mediumship has a great history attached to it. So people would go into trance and be able to do what's called a book test, for example, where they go, okay, on your bookshelf, you have, this green thing up here, and then there's a bunch of books, and on the fourth book it has a white binding, and on page 146, you will find this passage. And that is evidence that they actually have some sort of other awareness. So not only that, there would also be trance mediums who would speak in other languages fluently that they didn't know, fluent Hindi, fluent German. And I'm just thinking of a specific medium right now, who's Helen Hughes. She was an English housewife, and she spoke in Hindi, German, Portuguese, Spanish, and she didn't speak any of those languages. So I think that's a really big difference between that. But anyway, there are other forms of trance as well. There's trance healing. So we had George Chapman, who is an amazing medium who brought through Dr. Lang, who did physical healing on people in the trance state. So trance can be many things. There's also trance painting, trance art. Jose Medrado is an example of that, where spirit comes through and they're able in minutes to create these fantastic forms of art. And then you also, so that's trance kind of in a little nugget. And then you also have physical mediumship. Physical mediumship is any kind of phenomena that occurs outside in the physical space. So in mental mediumship, it's passing through the medium. But in physical mediumship, if you're there, if I'm there, if other people who are not mediumistic are there, they'll all see it. So if the table moves, everybody sees the table move. If it levitates, everybody sees that. If there's spirit lights or what are they called? Materializations that occur, everybody's seeing it and interacting with it. That is physical mediumship. And so those are kind of the three main things. We do include healing in that, energetic healing, as a form of mediumship, because you are the medium for the energy to pass through you. So that is also considered a form of mediumship as well.
I love what you're describing too, because I think a lot of people confuse that with channeling. And because in some ways it's, and I know this confusion within my own little world. Because a lot of times channels and mediums will use these terms interchangeably, and they're
Yeah.
not. Channeling is like different. Can you talk about the difference between those two?
Yeah, it's interesting because I've noticed that like within the last, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, the term channeling has come to often mean bringing through messages. Like I channel the spirit of your loved one and that sort
Yep.
of thing, which for much of my development, channeling meant specifically this sort of transmediumship type thing where a higher consciousness speaks directly through you. That's what I understand channeling as. But as time has gone on, we're sort of finding new ways to use that, especially in the Gen Z group of folks. They're definitely using channeling to mean that more so. But yeah, so it's channeling is essentially bringing through anything that is coming from some other side. It's basically being a medium. But as far as specifically like the way that I understand it, channeling is when you're bringing a higher consciousness through, can be a group of, consciousness and bringing through messages. So you have examples of like Bashar and Esther Hicks and with Abraham and Seth with like Jane Roberts. Those are examples of like traditional channelers. Whereas trance mediumship is going to be mediums such as Estelle Roberts and Helen Hughes, and there's just a ton. And
Yeah.
then channeling or making a link, as they're calling it these days, is when you make a link to the spirit and deliver messages.
I love that. I love that because the confusion has created some weird, like, are you a channel or a medium? I'm like, not the world's best medium, but I do channel spirit guides. But I love that. One thing I want to ask you something that comes up a lot. So let's just say, and I have to use certain words because you guys know YouTube doesn't like everything, right? So what happens if is the messages different if the person has intentionally unalived themselves?
No. And
Okay.
I think that one really important thing to recognize is that there is no punishment for that. There is no punishment
Thank
for.
you for saying that.
Yeah, there's plenty of people out there that say, "Oh, this person's stuck," or "They can't move on," or all this sort of thing. And like, I really just need to emphatically say, I have never experienced that in all my years of bringing through messages. And I think it's honestly that belief is due to our own judgment of that act. That's what's going on is people are judging this person for doing that. And don't get me wrong, do I want everybody to be here? Yes. Do I want everybody to get the help that they need to support their happiness here in this life? Of course. And I think it's very maybe selfish or unkind to judge those people because they were clearly in enough pain that they felt they needed to escape this reality. And I think having compassion for them is what they need, not judgment on their actions. And don't get me wrong, it's hard for people who are still here who have to, go on, and that is painful. And there is a place for that too. But I think it's an and, not an or.
Do they have to when they take that action, do they end up having to experience the pain of the people left behind in their life review?
It is very possible that they do. I think that our loved ones, even after their life review and they're sort of like here and experiencing us, they'll see the pain that they've left. And
Mhm.
many, I mean, pretty much always, they come forward with, apologies for the pain that they've caused. And they know how much they hurt them. So there is very much an awareness of that spirit communicator of what the impact of their actions were, for sure.
Interesting. So what about on the opposite end of the spectrum, the person that was, intentionally unalived by someone else?
Yeah. So are you asking from which perspective? The
Oh, I'm
person
sorry,
who
the
did it or
person
the
who
person who
person
received
on
it?
the other side, not the person who did it. The person who did it, we already talked about that.
Yeah, so that's actually interesting in the sense that that person can often bring forward information that can be supportive in creating justice for that action in this life. That person can oftentimes find acceptance of what occurred and try to help the other people who are still here find acceptance of what has occurred. Because, I mean, one of my teachers, Gordon Smith, he had said a phrase that death is for the living. And I think it's a really important perspective is like, we who are still behind are the ones that have to deal with the aftermath and the pain and the loss and the grief. Those in the spirit world don't necessarily experience all of that pain and grief and all of that sort of thing, because they also have the perspective that, hey, actually I still go on and you're actually going to be with me again. So for them, it's more of that, somewhat of a waiting game until, you're reconnected. And so they don't share the same sort of maybe grudges or bitterness or grief or anger that maybe that people here might experience.
I love that perspective. That it actually feels good. I mean, I've never known anybody that's happened to. But the thought that they aren't on the other side lamenting this makes me feel better. That's nice. Uh, let's talk about something that people ask me about all the time. So dead. Let's just say dead granny. Dead granny. Is she's around you? Is she around you all the time, or is she around you when you're going through something specific that she can relate to? Or like, do they pick like favorites? Like I have a great grandfather that I was very close to, and I feel like he's around me all the time. But then I have other relatives that I didn't like. I don't feel like I ever see them. But I don't know if it's just because I don't want to. And him, I loved. I'd be curious to know, like, do they come around under certain circumstances, or how does that play out, or do you know?
Yeah. So it's always tricky to talk about this, only in that we don't fully understand what the experience of being on the other side is, but we do know that there is a very different perception of time and space on the other side, and one might even argue that there is no time and space on the other side. And so for me to say they're around you all the time or they're not around you all the time is kind of hard to understand from our perspective. But what I will say is that if you send a loving thought out to your loved one, they will be there. If you have a loving connection with that person, they will be there. What changes is our perception. Even as a medium, I often teach my students, it's not about them being here or being gone. It's about us being aware of them or not. And so it's sort of like an iris of a camera, and like you open that iris and you get more picture, right? Like there's more things to experience when you are open. When you are closed down, you experience a smaller portion of what the experience is. So for me, it's more about us becoming aware of them, that they're there, right? So like I always say to my students, like, if you look for a spirit's going to be there. They'll always be there. It's not like they're, running off and leaving you, because they're also likely, by location. Like they can be at multiple places at the same time. So they are there, and then they're maybe not as interested in what you're doing. So like people often ask me, like, are they watching me through my private time and all of that sort of thing? And I'm like, I really doubt they have any real interest in your private time, because they don't have those same sort of drives and urges and all of that sort of thing. So, and even if they did see that, they probably don't give a shit. So, there's
Are they laughing at me fighting with my husband?
exactly,
Are
exactly.
they refereeing? Are they picking sides?
Yeah, I mean,
Like,
sometimes they will come forward and they will talk about the arguments and the things and what give you their opinion, just like they would in their living life.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I had a client once. I'm not the world's best medium, but I had a client once who was like, your grandma's here, and she's telling me you can't marry this guy John that she was dating or whatever, and she's not saying why. And I'm like, Granny's not saying why. And when I tune into John seems like a decent human being. I'm like, what's going on? Client starts laughing their butt off. Okay, well, Granny was an Orthodox Jew.
Mhm.
John is Catholic. Of course, she's gonna say he can't marry her because my whole life she wanted me to marry a nice Jewish boy, and he's not Jewish. I thought it was funny. Thought it
Yeah.
was
Yeah,
funny.
I mean, and spirit has a sense of humor.
They
That's like
do.
definitely.
They do. People don't realize that. It's like they think it's so irreverent and like peaceful and like the priest. They're funny.
They're
They're
hilarious.
funny.
I mean, spirit can give you shit. They can tease you. They can do all kinds of things. I mean, like spirit is a person, and they're funny. And if they were funny in life, they're still funny now, and they will make jokes. I mean, there's some sessions that you have as a medium, and that spirit communicator who was in life, someone who cracked jokes all the time, they'll be cracking jokes left and right while they are, coming through. So people maintain their personality. They maintain their essence and who they are.
I love that. So, what about somebody who comes to you? And this is kind of a question, two questions here, but somebody comes to you, their husband just died,
Yeah.
and first of all, you have to shield yourself from the grief, or unless maybe you don't do that. I don't know. You're kind of acting a little bit as a grief counselor, and also, can you easily pick up, or can you pick up somebody that has just passed? Let's say 2 weeks earlier.
Yeah. So to answer the first part of it, I don't have to shield myself from anything. I don't have to
Okay.
shield myself from other people's energy or grief. What's theirs is theirs. What's mine is mine, and that's it. Like that's how you prevent from having to take on other people's things. You just have to have a clear sense of what's you, what's not you, and that clear boundary never gets crossed. It's not
Love
like
it.
you're people that take on other people's things is because they usually have this sort of like energetic default where they're used to trying to attend to the needs of others, so they're always sort of hyper vigilantly trying to pay attention to what other people need, and that pulls that sort of energy inward to them. So it's just a matter of you separating that out. So you never have to shield yourself from anything from other people, um, as far as that when you're doing a reading. Um, their loved one coming in, they can come in right away. They can just have
Really?
I've heard of people doing demonstrations where they thought that the person in the audience thought they were living, and they're like, no, this person's dead, and they get home and they had just died. So there's that. But I mean, some of the strongest readings I've ever had was like they died 4 days ago. You know what I mean?
Wow.
So there is no real time limit. Some people take a little bit longer. Some people come right away. I mean, it just depends on the person.
Love it, love it, love it. So to answer the question that I'm getting a lot from clients is, they're starting to see, they're starting to feel, and they want to learn how they can do this. Can anyone learn the basics? I mean, I know it's not like, if you want to be the best pianist, you probably should have started when you were 4. But can somebody at 50, 60, 70 learn how to do this well enough to get a lot of good information?
100%. I am a strong believer that literally anyone can learn this. I find that people that have a harder time and it just takes more time, they tend to be a little bit intellectualizers. So they tend to be a little bit more in their thinking mind and they're not as connected to the feeling. And the feeling is a really important thing because mediumship and psychic awareness and all that sort of thing happens down here. This is the seat of all of that. And so if you're a person who really goes into their thinking mind and analyzes every little thing, it can keep us a little bit separate. But even those people can learn how to move into it. So everyone can learn this. I will die on that hill as well. That everybody can learn this. I think in all of my years of teaching, I feel like there's maybe one person I can think of who had a particular difficulty with it, but she also in her life had a particular difficulty in feeling in general. So what I ended up telling her is work on that first and then come back to this. But otherwise, no. I mean, even people, and I say when I say particular, I mean a really, I mean extreme disconnection from the feeling place. And otherwise, yes, literally anybody else can learn. Some people are going to unfold very quickly, and other people are going to require more time. But if you continue and you are persistent, 100% you will be able to do it.
Love it, love it, love it. Oh my gosh, I had a question for you on this one. That's too funny. Do dead people ever give psychic predictions? Because I want to tell you, I want to tell you a story. I want to tell you a true story. And I turned this person away because I couldn't stop laughing when they were asking me this. They felt like there was a dead granny of theirs that was trying to give them lottery numbers, but they couldn't hear it. They couldn't. Could you just put me into trance? I just need the numbers. And I'm like, if that was possible, I would hypnotize you and make you forget the session completely, get the numbers myself, and you'd never hear from me again. But can they give psychic predictions like that?
I mean, the lottery numbers is one that always comes up, and people are always talking about that. And I'm like, listen, if they could give me that, I would take it, you
You'd
know?
never
But
see me again.
as far as like psychic predictions, spirit people can give some psychic predictions, especially
Interesting.
if it's something more recent, like more close to now. They don't necessarily have the same sort of view, as far as in the distance of your future, of things that are, from their vantage point, whereas your guide or your spirit guide or something like that might have a little bit further of a view. But also I don't believe that most things are set in stone. I think there are only certain things that are set in stone in the future. And then other than that, there's sort of all these pathways that take you to those points. And so it depends on the choices people make, right? So can they give you lottery numbers? I've yet to see anyone get the correct lottery numbers. But as far as other things that are going to come up, for example, there's been mediums of the past who have literally been able to bring through a spirit communicator, and they said, hey, on Sunday you're going to see so and so, and he just had a leg operation. They amputated the lower half of his leg, so when you see him, like, don't be surprised. What happens that Sunday at church? What do they see? That person with the amputated leg, etc., etc. So is that a prediction, or is that just telling you what's happened in another time and space? I don't know. But yes, do I think that spirit can give you some predictions? Sometimes. And sometimes they're right. And then I don't know that they will always be right because of the free will. So, and
Yeah,
also,
and please,
yeah.
I was just gonna say, and please, if some medium tells you that Granny said that lump on your chest is fine, go to a doctor, please.
Yeah.
Don't,
Yeah.
no.
Never take medical advice from any medium at all. And what I would recommend is, if something does come up like that, always get it validated through medical, sort of things. So,
Amen.
yeah.
Oh, God.
Please, for the love of God.
It's just a pet peeve, because I've had that person. I went to some psychic and they told me this, and I'm like, please, 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 go see a doctor.
Yeah, exactly.
No, don't buy a house.
It's a lot of trust you're putting on some person you just met and paid money to.
One thing I wanted to ask you about is, people say to me, I think of my grandma and then I see feathers. Can they move stuff in the physical world? Can they manifest a feather or a penny? Or tell me about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it has less, like most things what people experience regarding, seeing a penny or a feather or that sort of thing. I think it's less that they're moving it. It's more that your attention's being drawn to discover it.
Oh.
And I think that that's more of most of the time. However, there is something called apports, which is a form of physical phenomena. And that is where spirit can bring an object from somewhere else and move it to a different place. And apports, there's been all kinds of apports in our lives or in the history of mediumship. And, things as dramatic as like a newspaper with the same ink level of that same time period during the war, right? The same chemical makeup and this sort of thing, to, coins and jewels and all of that sort of thing. So apports absolutely can happen, but I think most of the time what people are seeing is less that the spirit's moving thing from one place to the next, and more so you're actually just being drawn to it for a significant reason.
Oh, I love that. That's the idea of the whole no, I can't think of what it's called, but reticular activator. It's like, if you're looking for a red car, if you're thinking about buying a Volkswagen, suddenly every single person owns a Volkswagen around you. I love that concept. So talk to me, and we're going to talk about your school, because I want to know, actually, well, I just asked that question. What made you start a school? Because that's a big freaking deal, Michael.
Yeah, I'm really proud of Oakbridge. So Oakbridge Institute is our online school, and I started it for a lot of the reasons we've just been talking about, where there's tons and tons and tons of misinformation out there. There's tons of unethical, behaviors and things like that within this realm. And also my experience, having traveled the world, working with a bunch of different teachers and seeing different people, as well as with students, I've seen that there were so many students who were getting really poor training. And not only that, sometimes we're even getting sort of mistreated really badly by their teachers. And that's a thing.
Yeah, no, that's a thing. That's a thing.
People's egos really start to grow. And when, they spend all their time being told, you're amazing, you're wonderful, they start believing it. And they start, getting their egos stroked too much. And then they start thinking, they get this like complex about how great they are. And they start treating people really poorly. I mean, I've heard some horror stories from students of the kinds of things that people have said and done to them. And there came a point where I was like, I'm kind of sick of having to repair all these people in my private mentoring and all that sort of thing. I'm going to just create a standard where people can just come to feel safe, to feel supported, to have community. And that's why I created Oakbridge.
I love what you're describing because I mean, I feel like we've all met that guy, and I wish I could just say it was just one, but there's quite a few of them, and I've warned people about this. I've actually even think you can see the book over my shoulder. But read the book Cultish, because you guys, when you're looking for spiritual things, it is very easy to stumble into a cult. And the first warning sign is the love bomb. We love you the best. Oh my God, you have all these special skills. I can see it in your aura. You're like all this. Oh my God, you're gonna be better than me, right? Like that's a red flag. That's
Yeah.
our ego loves that, but please run. Like, because a regular teacher says, I can see that there's some things to look at here, but there's some work to do too. And are you willing to do the work? And you're like, yeah, work is good. Work is good.
Absolutely.
I love that. So with your school though, I want to talk about, the average person, like the 60-year-old granny who's seeing dead people in their house. When they go to your school, is it geared for people who are going to be sitting for other people, or is it geared for people or both who just want to learn this because they think it's freaking cool?
Yeah, it's definitely geared towards everybody. So whether you want to do this and become a medium or do that sort of work, or you're just curious about understanding a bit more about what the nature of your being is and your spiritual connection, either way, it is for you. I think that you end up learning that mediumship is a tool through to experience life through. And so it's not the answer, it's not the end all be all. It's a tool that you use to continue to discover truth. And now you just happen to have more of a vantage point to be able to see and experience things that are real and truthful. And me being the person that I am, I'm a capital T truth seeker. And I think that mediumship plays a big role in being able to find your way with that, especially understanding what you really are. You're not just this like little meat sack and then you just are here and then you die. Like you're more than the meat sack. You're a spiritual eternal being inside the meat sack.
I
and
love that.
when we learn how to quiet our thinking mind, we're able to access more of what we already are.
I love that. I can take personally, not being a medium who hangs a shingle that says a medium, taking training for that, which was really hard for me because it didn't come naturally. Spirit guides is easy, but the people without bodies, that was harder. I can tell you that it has made me a better reader because the access points are there. And let's say somebody wants to start today. What would you tell them is like the first thing to do? Like, I know you're not going to tell them to go on a special diet because I'm sick of hearing that. Learn to meditate, do yoga. I like, "Oh, you have to be a vegan." Like, come on, that's not true.
I happen to be a vegan, but not for spiritual reasons.
If you're a vegan, great, but it's not a requirement.
It's not at all.
What is a requirement? What would you say start today with?
If I were to say to start today, it would be utilizing the practice of sitting in the power, specifically for mediumship development. So it's a meditative practice where you learn to kind of access sort of your own energy within, and then you sort of allow it to open up and kind of surround you. And that's you practicing externalizing your power, your energy. And then you sit and you learn to become still and learn to become passive. Now, by still, I don't mean no thoughts, nothing going on in your mind. That's not what I'm
Good luck with that. Nobody can do that.
But what I am referring to is a practice of learning how to notice, accept, let it go. Notice, accept, let it go. And it's through that practice that you will start to be able to, when you go do a mediumship reading, you will be able to start to notice what you're experiencing, describe it, and then let it go. The biggest challenge people have when starting off in their mediumship is their mind is too reactive. So every little thing that they experience, they go, what is that? Oh my gosh. And they try to look at it from like 19 angles and they try to understand it. And that's what's stopping them from getting more information. So then they get stuck. So if you are grabbing onto every single stimulus that you have, every sensation, every picture, every whatever, you're going to not move forward. So you have to learn how to notice, accept, let it go. Notice, accept, let it go. And that creates this little conveyor belt of stimulus from the spirit world. But sitting in the power also helps you to become energetically sensitive. If you can't feel anything, then it's unlikely that you're going to be able to know that you even have a spirit person there. So it helps you to become energetically sensitive. It helps you to become passive and receptive, which is a requirement for mediumship. And then it also helps you to, I think that the spirit world is what develops you. I think they are the ones doing it. And so well, every time that you sit for them and you go, okay, guys, I'm just here. I'm going to go into the quiet and the stillness. I'm just here to use this time for whatever you want to use it for. I believe they come in with their little lab coat and their little glasses and their little pen and paper. And they're like, okay, what do we have to open on Jill today? Okay, we're going to open up her clairvoyance. We're going to adjust her clairsentience, right? They work on you and they build you up. And what that does is every time that their power and their energy kind of blends with yours for a time, they actually leave more energy than when they started. So you keep building your power, building your energy, and then it makes it so that it's easier to connect with the spirit world as well.
That is such a beautiful message. Well, Michael, we're going to wrap it up here, but I do want to ask you two things. First of all, I want to ask you if there's anything that I didn't think to ask you that you really think people should know. What did I forget to ask?
Well, I think that there's something you forgot to ask, but I would say that I want to like leave people with is to recognize that there is nothing you need to fear from the spirit world. In fact, if there is anything that you're going to experience from developing your mediumship, developing your awareness, is that there is nothing to fear, and that the spirit world is love, and the spirit world is this connection to this bigger part of what you already are. So you are spirit right now, which is why you can do mediumship, which is why you are mediumistic, why you are psychic. You're already that. What's keeping you from becoming aware of it is just your thinking mind. So when we learn to quiet the thinking mind, we learn to be able to access more of what we already are. And you will do that. You can do that. So anyone can do this. Let's get rid of the 1990s where it's like, these people are mediums and that's
the gurus.
it. Exactly. Let's burn that whole concept to the ground and recognize that there is nothing special about those people other than they spent time developing. And the same power that passes through any amazing medium that you've ever seen in your whole life is the same power that passes through you. So we just have to learn how to access it.
I don't think you could say anything more perfect than that. How can they reach you? I am going to put all your contact information in the show notes, you guys. And if for some reason you can't find it, email me. I love Michael. I will absolutely send you his direction. But people like to hear you say it. How can they find you? Like, what's the name of your school? What's your website? Say it out loud for the podcast.
Yeah.
People listening on the podcast.
Yeah, perfect. So my online school is called oakbridgeinstitute.org. And you can go there if you're wanting to develop your mediumship, psychic awareness, healing. And then if you are interested in working with me, either in readings or mentorship, you can do that at mediummichaelmayo.com.
Love it. And it's if you're watching on the screen, it is exactly spelled like you think it is. There's nothing weird about it. I let a guess who spelled their very ordinary name in a very weird way.
Lastly, I should probably mention I do have an online book. Not an online book. I have a book
right,
that you can get online.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
It's called Spirit Speaks. It's a step-by-step guide to developing your mediumship. So that is also a really great resource. If you are interested, you can get that on Amazon or Llewellyn.com.
I love it too, because your classes, I looked on because I nosed around your website. They're not that expensive, but I love that the book, even if the classes are not available to you for whatever reason, the book is pretty cheap. I mean, it's just like anybody could buy the book and get at least the basics and start to understand themselves better.
100%. And then for those who are financially in a sensitive space, we do offer partial scholarships at Oakbridge. So if you are interested in taking any of the courses, if you're just starting out, I would recommend Foundations 1. That is the great place to start. But we do offer that. We teach that twice a year. So the next one will start in January. So if you are interested in developing your mediumship in any way, that's definitely the place I would start you. And if you need financial assistance, we also offer that.
I love that. I love that. Well, you guys, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And Michael, thank you so much for being here. This was fascinating. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I love talking to mediums because you guys always know a lot of stuff that I don't know. And Michael's an expert in so many things. I would encourage all of you to, at the very least, go to his YouTube channel. He's got a lot of, I love that you have some like short-ish videos for those of us like me who have a little touch of the ADD and like, oh, it's like 12 minutes long. Forget it. Right. Yeah. You've got some short little how to do things videos that I love. And Michael, you're just an amazing guy. And so thank you so much for coming. And you guys, thank you for liking and subscribing. That means a lot to me. Thank you very much. And go to his channel and like and subscribe too. And I look forward to seeing you guys again. And again, thank you so much, Michael. I love you guys. I'll see you guys again soon. Okay. Bye, everyone. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.